I'm Nyesha McCauley, and you're watching AccessTV.org.
Good morning. This is Jonathan Small, host and producer of All About You. This program is broadcast every single week at AccessTV.org studios in downtown Hartford. And this show is designed to give the guests a chance to give their life story. This morning, I have a very successful person as my guest. He has a tremendous, impressive career path, and we're going to talk about his life. We're going to talk about his current and future plans. This morning, my guest is a partner at Hinckley and Allen here in Hartford, Connecticut, Coleman B. Levy. Good morning, Coleman. How you doing?
Good morning. How are you, Jonathan?
I'm doing all right. And you, Coleman?
Fine.
Okay, it's very good to have you down
Sun
here.
is out this morning, and
Yes.
it's not snowing.
It's not snowing, and it's a little bit warmer
Correct.
than usual, but it's still cold. Coleman, you was born technically in New Haven, but you grew up and was raised in New Britain, Connecticut?
Correct.
Okay.
My father's family was from New Haven.
Mm-hmm.
I was born in New Haven, and shortly thereafter, my mother and father moved to New Britain. And so probably from the time I was 6 months old until the time I really went off to college, I lived in New Britain. I was raised in New Britain.
Mm-hmm.
Went to school in New Britain, and it was a terrific community.
Okay. So for people who are unfamiliar with New Britain, what was the type of atmosphere? What was it like growing up in New Britain, Connecticut?
Well, New Britain, number one, was a was the hardware city of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And there were many, many, many major factories.
Yeah.
It was truly a blue-collar ethnic community.
Mm-hmm.
It had a large Polish population.
Mm-hmm.
Probably when I was growing up, it was probably the second largest Polish population in the United States, second to Chicago.
Okay.
It had a large Italian population, Irish, Yankee, and it had a fairly well-established Jewish community.
Mm-hmm.
And I grew up in that community and had a lot of wonderful experiences, and it had a lot to do with molding my character and things that I would do in the future.
So you had definitely enjoyed growing up in New Britain when you came along.
Well, yes. I mean, I grew up in the post-Second World War
Mm-hmm.
era. I learned to deal with a fair amount of anti-Semitism,
Mm-hmm.
but it was pretty unique in the sense that my mother, let her rest in peace, she always said, Coleman, it's not a level playing field.
Yes.
And so you just have to show and you have to exceed. And at the end of the day, that'll bring you through.
Mm-hmm.
And so it really didn't have a real serious negative effect. In fact, I developed a tremendous amount of friendships with the people in New Britain, which I've maintained and keep to this very day.
Mm-hmm. Coleman, how long did you actually stay living in New Britain, Connecticut?
Well, from 6 months
Mm-hmm.
until basically until I was in law school.
Oh, okay.
And when I got to law school and, really when I went to college, I mean, I came home,
Mm-hmm.
On holidays and weekends on occasion, but that was it.
Okay.
I mean, I left.
You left, okay.
When I went off to school, that was the end.
Now, after you finished college, what was your next move? Where did you go at that?
Well, I went to the University of Connecticut,
Mm-hmm.
which was a great experience. then I went on to, I had a fellowship, and I went on to graduate school at the university. And after I got my master's, I decided to go to law school. And I went to the University of Connecticut School of Law, and I graduated law school in 1966.
Okay. So your whole career planning was to become an attorney?
No.
It wasn't?
No.
Oh.
No. I majored in the sciences, and there was one point in my life I was either going to go to medical or dental school, and I changed career paths sort of at the end of my when I was in graduate school, and I think it suited me better, and I've enjoyed it, and I have no regrets, and there are no lookbacks.
What was your first big career position that you was able to hold?
Well, when I got out of law school, my first big career position was getting married.
Okay.
And I'm still married to that wonderful woman.
Yes.
Okay. And I went to work for a small law firm, and I worked there for 4 years, and then I opened up my own office, and I did that for a year or so, and then I formed a partnership with Jack Tarlow. Let him rest in peace. He passed away last year. He was a wonderful partner, and we formed a firm, and we grew that firm in West Hartford. And eventually the firm got too large. We couldn't find any space in West Hartford. So we moved to Farmington, and basically remained in Farmington. We moved probably twice, and we stayed there until the end of December of 2012, at which time we merged with Hinckley, Allen, and Snyder, known as Hinckley Allen. And on January 1st, 2013, we moved down to 20 Church Street in Hartford. And it was the first time I ever practiced in downtown Hartford. My first office was at 999 Asylum Avenue. And from 999 Asylum Avenue, I moved to 60 Washington Street, which was a lovely building on the corner of Buckingham and Washington, and no longer exists.
Yes.
It was imploded a number of years ago, but the garage still remains. And that's sort of my my journey through the years with regard to my practice. I've done some other things along the way, but those are the that's sort of the Reader's Digest version of getting from law school to where we are today. Yes.
Well, you was also involved in some very successful projects like the Gold Building here in the capital city of Hartford.
Well, I was fortunate in my practice over the years. I've been involved in a number of major real estate transactions, whether it be the Gold Building, the Metro, a number of major condominium projects, Balbray out in Bloomfield, which was a major project, a number of projects in West Hartford, whether it be convalescent homes, shopping centers, having done a lot of the zoning and land use for a number of these projects. I've had a wide and varied and exciting practice, and have met a lot of wonderful people. And one of my early clients, who remains a client, has become quite successful, is the Mazzucatos, who own Mazzucato Di Pasquale's bakery down in the South End. I've represented the South End Business Merchants Association for a number of years. But in addition to that, and more importantly, I have been involved in a lot of nonprofits, and philanthropy is a major part of our family's philosophy. And so we've been fortunate enough to be able to give back to the community.
Well, Coleman, you've been touched. I believe one of your sons had passed away in 1999 due to cancer. So did that have something to do with you wanting to get more involved in the contributing back to society?
Well, let me say this. My wife and myself have been involved in philanthropy for many years prior to that. But I can tell you that that was a very telling moment in our life. Our son Perry was 32 years old. Had been recently married. Was on a real wonderful success path. Had his own business and was really moving forward. He was married to a wonderful woman, and unfortunately, he was a real physical specimen. He was a triathlete. He was a marathon runner, and cancer did him in 1999, and it was really tough on our community, on our family. It was tough on my wife. It was very tough on myself, and it was tough on his brothers. He had 3 brothers, and they were all very close. But we, you can dwell on bad things, or you can try, and I say try, to make a lemonade out of lemons. And we started an endowment at Dana-Farber in Boston in his memory. And we, with his wife, Melissa, we formed a foundation. The Levys formed a foundation, and we have an endowment at Dana-Farber, and we fund the salaries of first and second year researchers. And I can say to date, we've provided in excess of $1 million. And we have now over $5 million in the fund. And every year we have a group of people who ride on what we call Team Perry, and they ride in the Pan Mass Bike Challenge, which is a bike ride from Sturbridge, Mass to Provincetown. It's a 2-day race. They stay overnight in Bourne at the in fact, we just had a dinner for our Team Perry group a week ago, Tuesday. And driving through the snows of Boston was a challenge in and of itself. But so we've, and there's some very exciting research that's going on in the Coleman area, and Dr. Charles Fuchs at Dana-Farber and Harvard is in charge of that program. So as tough as it may be and as horrific as it may be, we're trying to make something good out of it.
That's probably the best thing that you can actually do in life, is just try to make the best out of a bad situation.
That's exactly right. You can dwell on it and it's not going to help you. So you try and do it so maybe it won't affect other people in the same way. and there'll be a benefit to society.
Okay. We're getting close to our break. Let's want to ask this question before we take our break. Has your faith been extremely helpful towards what you've went through in the past, and what it's like to lose a son?
Yeah, I think you have faith and things happen, and you have to understand that you don't pray to God so he'll make everything good.
Right.
You probably pray to God and start to realize that it's a source of getting you through not only the good times, that's the easy part.
Okay.
But getting you through the tough part.
Yes.
So I say yes.
Well, Coleman, I'm very glad that people was able to hear this part of your life, because sometimes many people don't know the whole story behind a person's life. And I think that's the whole purpose of All About You, is to let people know some things about an individual's life that they may not be aware of, and how they have had to go through things and how they had to deal with things, because it's just not that simple that people can figure something out just through writing or what you read about, but they actually see, what you've actually been through. We're going to take our first break. We're going to come back to the second part of our show, and we're going to let people know a little bit more about your life and a little bit more about your business plans. Okay?
Sure.
This is Jonathan Small. I'm hosting All About You this morning with my guest, attorney Coleman B. Levy of Hinckley and Allen Law Firm here in Hartford, Connecticut, and we're going to come right back very shortly. Thank you.
Black History Month. We pause to acknowledge and appreciate contributions enriching our cultural and intellectual fabric. Keep it coming.
We are the members of the Liberty Boston Dance Theater, and we celebrate Black history 365 days of the year.
Hi, this is Elijah Williams from Blue Hill Civic Association, and you're watching accesstv.org. See, kids, I think the most important thing that a kid needs is the education, because it's not only kids, it's adults, everybody. They all need an education. Without it, you can't get nowhere in this world. That's my perspective, and that's my opinion. And with Blue Hill Civic Association, it mostly teaches you about business, from writing a resume to filling out a job application. It is a job readiness program for kids that's my age. Well, I'm 17, so yeah, it's for kids my age, near my age, mostly for everybody, because everybody needs to know how to do that. Access TV, I feel like Access TV is it's like culture. I say that because you got different channels, and they all talk about different things. And in those different things, you got relationships, you got our show, Blue Hill Civic Association, and you also got the Bible, who Christ, and all that. So yeah, I think it's multicultural. And yeah, again, you're watching accesstv.org.
Good morning again. This is Jonathan Small hosting All About You this morning with my guest, attorney Coleman B. Levy of Hinckley and Allen in downtown Hartford. And we're going to continue with part 2 of our show. Coleman, you are involved in many different charities throughout the community, some that people may not be aware of. Is there any particular charity that really sticks out to you that you would like to talk about?
Well, I've been involved for a number of years with regard to the Hartford Jewish Federation, served on the board, chairman of a number of committees, and with the Jewish Community Center. In addition to that, I was been very involved on the board of the New Britain Museum of American Art, and was involved in the construction of their, initially when they built the new museum, and it's probably more than 10 years now, and they're in the process of building an addition. And it's just a great facility. It's a wonderful resource, and it's a real asset to the New Britain community. And if you haven't been there, make it your business to go out there, because it has one of the world-class collections of strictly American art. In addition to that, I am a board member of the YMCA in Hartford. And I'm presently the chairman of the University of Connecticut Foundation, which is the fundraising arm for the university, and providing a major source of funding to the university to enhance our great state university. And last year, just as an example, the foundation donated $81 million to the university, and those go for scholarships, and they go for endowed chairs for professors. They go for supporting certain areas of research. In addition to that, the new basketball facility, practice facility, which is state-of-the-art, was completely built with private funds from donors to the university, and that's probably the first building, state building, that was built completely with private funds and handed over to the university. And so it's a lot easier, and it's a lot more rewarding to give than to take. And we have found that in our family. Our sons are involved in philanthropy, our daughters-in-law, and we're trying to teach our 8 grandchildren how to do that also. And I think they're on their way with regard to their own little likings and activities that they support and they get involved with. And it's just wonderful to watch the young children become involved and helping. And it's not money, it's getting there and helping, going to a shelter, or going to a food bank, and being involved and helping. That brings, it's an important aspect of one's overall humanity.
Yes. Well, Coleman, I know you get a tremendous amount of fulfillment in being involved in different, organizations that you head, and, what you have been involved with, with your family. Is it somewhat a little bit different, though, than being an attorney? I mean, do your mindset and what you have to go through to be part of these different organizations is a little bit different than just running your law firm? Well,
There's a commonality, I think, to it. I mean, many people might not realize it, but there's a common theme. I remember when my children were young, and they asked me, Dad, what do you do? And all of a sudden your son say, what do you do? And now you got to think, okay?
Right.
And basically I said to them, I help people.
Right.
And that's what I try and do basically every day with regard to people. People come in and there are issues and there are problems and there's ways that they have to be resolved. And and that's what I do. So, in a sense, it's got a common theme, but do understand as a lawyer, I'm an advocate. Okay,
right,
and I represent a client, and I have to promote, protect, sustain the position that we're and what we're trying to achieve. So sometimes under certain circumstances, unfortunately, it can get a little heated.
Yes.
But the real goal and the objective of a good attorney is to take the emotionalism out of the situation. That's what you're brought into, and deal with it in a rational way, not irrational, not yelling, not screaming, but dealing with the facts that you have before you, and that's what you have in order to formulate your position.
Okay. Coleman, one other business we didn't talk about that you was involved with in the past, and I had a partner and maybe a friend of yours, Bill Dowling, on my show a few months ago.
Sure.
You used to be a co-owner of the New Britain Rockettes.
Bill Dowling and I were partners.
Partners, okay.
And we purchased the New Britain Rockettes back in the closing took place in 2000. In probably February or March of 2000. And Bill and I put together a group of people who, together with ourselves, bought the team.
Yes.
And we operated the team all the way through the 2011 season. And then in 2000, at the end of 2011, we were approached, and the offer was so good we couldn't refuse.
Right.
And there's a time and a place. And as I said, I fall in love with my wife. I don't fall in love with things.
Right.
And so we sold the team. And I can tell you the experience of owning that team was terrific. I think we did a wonderful job. I think we bought the team, and I think the attendance at that time was somewhere around 160,000 people for the season. And when we sold it, our attendance in 2011 was 387,000. So those are pretty good numbers.
Yes.
Okay. And Bill was terrific. My son, Evan, was the marketing and salesperson and did an excellent job in promoting activities and exciting the community to come. And as a result, it was terrific. You know, there aren't many things that you do in life where you have a certain amount of pleasure yourself. People come up and say thank you, and you happen to make a couple of bucks along the way too.
Right.
So it was a great experience. And you know, there's nothing like selling fun. And baseball is fun, and it's a great family experience. And so it was a most enjoyable period of time.
Well, plus, Coleman, also, this was your hometown, New Britain, Connecticut. So when people always say about giving back, it had to kind of like bringing up a baseball team to your hometown.
Well,
you were from.
Jonathan, that's an interesting point. I grew up about 6 blocks from the park. And basically, our Little League field was where the baseball field was. Okay. And I remember, we used to come to the park during the summer. We came almost every day. I mean, we played baseball, we went swimming, we rode our bikes to the park. Okay. And and when we had the opportunity to buy it, and I didn't know much about the baseball business, okay, but I learned fairly quickly. Okay, I thought that this was a great opportunity and something that would excite me for the community that I grew up in.
Yeah.
And the community was very responsive, it was a good feeling. There's no doubt about it. When I would go to the park and go to the games and walk on the promenade, and a lot of people I knew, and a lot of people came up to me, and a lot of people that I grew up with, or their children came up to me and said, my father said this about you, or my mother, or so forth. So I enjoyed it greatly, and it was a wonderful experience.
Well, Coleman, I know you don't, like you mentioned, you don't live in New Britain anymore. I mean, it's such a small state that even though you don't live technically in the city, you're so close to it where you live at now.
Right.
But New Britain has obviously changed since you grew up, and it has some tremendous issues. Let's not kid ourselves. It's not the same city that it was when you was growing up. Does it kind of break your heart at times when you see the New Britain and some of the stories of maybe unemployment and crime that really wasn't around when you was growing up?
I thought about that, and I think, unfortunately, there are certain events that took place in New Britain, okay, that there wasn't a lot of thinking beyond the edge of the desk. In other words, where are we going, not tomorrow morning, but where are we going to be in 5 years or 10 years or 25 years?
Yes.
And what happened is, when I was a youngster growing up, New Britain was a very isolated community. And the factories, the people, and then in the 50s, sort of in the late 50s, they started a redevelopment program. Okay, and what they did is they took a lot of the factories.
Yes.
Okay, and of course those factories were starting to be obsolete, in the sense that 4 and 5 and 6 story factory buildings were not what was being built at that time. Everything was one floor. Okay. Yes. So what they did is they took the factories, they took the property in condemnation, factories got their money, and they moved out of town.
That's how, yeah.
And they moved out of town, and they moved to the surrounding communities: Berlin, Southington, Cheshire. And having an immigrant mentality, I mean, I remember as a young boy, I could tell you when it was 10:07, and I could tell you when it was, 5 after 12, and I could tell you when it was 10:01.
Right.
Because the factory was down at the end of our street, and the people went home for lunch and they came back. So they lived within 2 miles of where they worked.
Yes.
And so what happened is, all of a sudden, all this farm country, they moved the factories out, and all of a sudden, subdivision developments are taking place in Southington, Cheshire, Berlin, Kensington, and the people move out.
Right.
And so it was like a vacuum.
But Coleman, you kind of left before this all took place. I mean, so you weren't really even around when New Britain was really declining.
No, that's when it was. I left, this is the late 50s through the mid 60s.
Yes.
and this is when it started to take place. Okay, and the factories moved out, and then they relocated, and then the highway system. New Britain didn't have a highway system. Growing up, it took 45 minutes on the bus to go to Hartford. I mean, it was an event. I mean, you either went through Elmwood or you went through Newington, and it was not easy. Okay. Right. And all of a sudden, 84 was built. And now we have a highway system, and people can get on the highway and they go to Hartford in 5 minutes, 10 minutes, okay? And they can move around. And all of a sudden, New Britain downtown, which had a very, very viable retail business and economic center, sort of fell off the mountain overnight.
Yes.
And there's some great opportunities downtown, and then we had they put a road through the center of New Britain, a road to nowhere, and it split the city in two. Now we're in the process of quote unquote the busway.
Yes.
We're going to see what it is shortly.
Right.
I mean, we're moving people basically from Hartford to New Britain, or vice versa, and with some filler from some other communities. I can only say this to you: we have a tremendous monetary investment in it. Okay. So I really want it to work.
Yes.
Okay. I have some questions about it, but we'll see shortly because it's scheduled to open within a couple of months.
Right.
So that's something that we will see. But New Britain is not does not have the industrial base that it did when I was growing up. The major institutions and employers in New Britain today are not for profit employers.
Right.
You have two major hospitals, you have the city itself, and you have the university, which is a major asset to the city. I mean, it's the second largest state university in Connecticut. It has over 15,000 students. I remember when it was Teachers College of Connecticut, okay, and they had 400 students.
Right.
So it's a major asset. The baseball team, I think, was a major asset to the city. Okay, the two, the two community family centers. You have the New Britain Museum of American Art, and you had the baseball. Baseball created a lot of excitement and a lot of fun for a lot of families. Very affordable, very inexpensive. We basically didn't raise prices over 10 years.
Right.
A little here and there, but nothing of any significance. And so, yeah, it was most enjoyable.
Okay.
It was most enjoyable.
Well, we have to end it on those words. We are out of time, but I definitely had enjoyed having you down here this morning to give your life story. And I hope people was able to learn some things about your life that they may not be aware of. And I wish you the best of luck for the year of 2015.
To you too, and thank you very much. It was most enjoyable.
You're welcome. It's very good to hear that.
Thank you.
All right. This is Jonathan Small. I had enjoyed hosting All About You this morning with my guest, attorney Coleman B. Levy of Hinckley and Allen Law Firm in downtown Hartford. And there's a lot of great programs that you could always look at on accesstv.org network throughout the week. And as I say every single week to people out there, have a very blessed day and keep the faith. Thank you.